Hello there, welcome back to Literary Cleveland's YouTube channel. If you haven't seen me before, my name is Naomi and I am one of Literary Cleveland's spring interns. And this year for my internship project, I proposed a video series and this video is part of that video series. So today we're going to be talking about book to movie adaptations coming out in this year in 2022. I have a list in front of me of a whole bunch of books that are being turned into movies or TV shows, and I hope that y'all are excited as I am to watch all of these this year. So first off, we have a really popular book. This is actually an unpopular opinion. I didn't love this book, but I know that a lot of other people do, and that is the historical fiction novel called The Duke and I. And this is a series. This series was adapted on Netflix as a TV show. I read the first book and I didn't love it, but I did love the TV show. I do feel like as an adaptation it works better as a TV show. And season 2 on Netflix is coming out, and basically that will be following the second book in the Bridgerton series, which is The Viscount Who Loved Me. And like I said, this is a historical fiction novel. The first novel was mainly a romance, and it's very dramatic and it has a lot of romance and it follows a lot of different characters, and it was a really good TV show. I just think as a book it didn't really work for me, but yeah, this is one of the adaptations coming out soon, and this one is coming out on March 25th, so really soon. The next book is being turned into a movie, and that movie is coming out this summer in July, and I'm actually super excited because that is Where the Crawdad Sings by Delia Owens, which is one of my favorite books of all time. This book, it's set in 1969 and it follows this girl who, in this little town they call the Marsh Girl, and she basically is kind of left on her own to kind of fend for herself, and then one day someone turns up murdered and they blame her because she's kind of weird and she's always been alone, kind of out there in the marsh, so they blame her for it, and this kind of follows her trial and why she's being blamed, and you kind of see her growing up, and I am super duper excited for this adaptation because the main character is going to be portrayed by Daisy Edgar Jones, who was also in another book to movie adaptation called Normal People, which was a Hulu series. She's an incredible actress and I can't wait to see her portray Kaya. Next up, I have Heartstopper by Alice Oseman, and this is actually a graphic novel series, super popular, and this one is being turned into TV show by Netflix. This one doesn't have a release date yet. It does say that it's coming out this year in 2022, but I'm not entirely sure when exactly. Like I said, this is a graphic novel series and it follows two boys that go to school. This is set in England. And basically, these two boys have never met before. They go to the same school for many years, and then one day, randomly, they just meet and they become friends and eventually fall in love. And this is a really cute series, and it does touch a lot on different, like, very important topics like depression and eating disorders, and it just handles it in a really good way. A lot of representation for the LGBTQIA+ community in this also. This already has 4 volumes out. The one that I'm holding in front of me obviously is volume 1, but recently I just read volume 4 and I loved it. Next up, I have another movie coming out in spring 2022, and that is Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney is being turned into a movie. So again, unpopular opinion, but I read Normal People by Sally Rooney and I really didn't like it. I just didn't really vibe with the writing style, I think, but I loved the TV show with Daisy Edgar Jones, who is going to be in Where the Crawdads Sing. So Conversations with Friends is also written by Sally Rooney. Obviously, I don't know much about like the plot or anything about the book really, but I am excited to watch it because I do think Sally Rooney's novels work better as like adaptations or movies, TV shows, because her books kind of read to me like a script. So I do feel like the adaptation might be better than for me to read the book. But I do know a lot of people that love Sally Rooney and her writing and all of her books, so this is an adaptation that's coming out in spring. Next up, I have another movie, and that is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I read this book about 2 or 3 years ago and I loved it. This is being turned into a movie, and basically this book is set in the 60s in LA, and it follows this woman. Her name's Daisy Jones, and basically she somehow, some way gets involved in like this rock band, and basically you follow how this band becomes famous and then ultimately they break up. This book is completely told in interview style, so I'm really excited to see if they include that in the movie, if they kind of do like an interview style format. So I'm excited to see, and I'm really stoked because I really love this book. Next up, I have another Netflix TV show, and that is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. So I'm holding the first book, and this show has actually been released already, the season 1, but season 2 is coming out, and I'm assuming that season 2 will be following the second book in this series, which is called Siege and Storm. But this one was also a really popular book back when it came out in 2014, and then when the TV show came out last year, it was really popular. So if you haven't watched that yet, maybe read the books, catch up. I believe Shadow and Bone season 2 will be coming out in the fall. And this one is a young adult fantasy series that follows this orphan girl. Her name's Alina. And in this world, it's called like the Grisha world. All of the kids are kind of tested to see if they have like magical powers. When she's young, they don't really detect any powers, but later on when she's like a teenager, for a reason that I won't really say, she has to go through this portal type thing that's called the Fold, and then in the Fold she kind of releases her powers, and then they take her to like this palace to be trained and to meet all the other kids that have magical powers. I'm doing a terrible job at explaining this book, but it's a favorite of mine. The next adaptation, I'm not entirely sure if it's a movie or TV show, but that is The School for Good and Evil by Simon Chainani. And this is being adapted by Netflix. Again, I don't know if it's going to be a movie or TV show, but it has an incredible cast already. And this one I actually read a couple weeks ago, and I love this book. I actually read it in preparation of the adaptation. This one is a middle grade novel that follows these two young girls that are best friends, and in this world there's kind of like a rumor or like a myth, fairy tale type of story, that this man comes every couple of years and in a way kidnaps two children from this little city. And when this man kidnaps the kids, he takes them to a school, and then there's the school for good and the school for evil, and basically these schools kind of train you to become like the princess in the fairy tale or the evil villain in the fairy tale. I really like this one. I've been enjoying reading middle grade a lot recently, and I loved reading about all of the fairy tales and all of like those nods to the classic fairy tales that we all know and love. And I'm super excited to see the adaptation and see what they do with this story, because I think it can be really great. Next up, I have a movie, and that is for The Power by Naomi Alderman. I talked about this book in my video where I talked about books that you should read during Women's History Month. So The Power, from what I remember, because I have not read this book, is basically this dystopian world in the future where women get these abilities, and from the touch of their hands they can kind of like electrocute things, is what I remember. And basically they become the dominant sex in this world. So this is becoming a movie. I haven't read it, but now I'm really excited to read it and read it before the movie and see what they do with it. Next up, I have a mini TV series that's coming out September 9th in the fall, and that is for Salems Lot by Stephen King. I'm coming at you with another unpopular opinion. I've only ever read one Stephen King book, and I think that's the only Stephen King book that I'll ever read in my lifetime. I don't particularly love his writing style. It's just, his books aren't really for me. I think I can watch the movies, like I've watched It and all of that. The only book by Stephen King that I've read is Mystery, and I just didn't love it. But yeah, Salems Lot is becoming a TV mini-series, and basically this one's about this writer, and from the ages of from 5 to 9 he lived in like this little small town. I'm assuming it's Salems Lot, and he kind of returns and then he discovers that everyone in his small town where he used to live is becoming vampires. So yeah, I didn't really know that Stephen King had written vampire novels, so that's good to know. I probably won't read it, but I'll probably watch it. And last but not least, I have a really exciting movie, and that is for The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This book is a historical fiction novel set in World War II, and this one follows two sisters, and basically because of the war they are separated, and you read from both of their point of views and their struggles and what they're going through. I've read one Kristen Hanna book, which was The Great Alone, and I loved it. I've been putting this off because I know I'm going to love it, so like I don't even want to start it because it's going to end and then I'm not going to be able to experience it again. So I have been putting this book off for the longest, but I am definitely probably reading this like a month or two before the movie come out, and this movie's coming out in December of this year, so at the end of the year. And I'm actually super excited about the casting as well, because the two sisters in this book, they casted two actual sisters in real life, which are Dakota and Elle Fanning, who I'm a huge fan of. I love both of them. They're great actresses, so I'm really excited to see what they do with these characters. Alright, so those are some of the book to movie or book to TV adaptations that are coming out this year. There's a whole bunch more that I wasn't able to include in this video, but these were some of the ones that I'm most excited about. Let me know down below if I missed any of your favorite books that are becoming movies or TV shows, or out of any of these ones that I mentioned, let me know which one you're most excited about in the comments down below. But yeah, that was it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. Bye!